Hey, my name's James Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel. House prices are up. We've just got the Halifax data in over the weekend. And there's some interesting stuff here. They've broken down some regions that are doing particularly well, which I'm going to share with you. So interesting stuff. Now, what's also interesting here is we're very close to getting back to the peak. The peak in house prices was in June 2022. Those of you that have followed the channel for a while, or maybe you know this already, know that at the back end of 2022, when we had the mini budget with Liz Truss, we had a house price drop in October, November and December that year, followed by a pretty much flat year in 2023. And then we've had a really busy start to 2024. So we're going to go into all of that, how much of house prices actually got up, what's the expectations going forward, and much more. So before we jump into that, as always, if you haven't done, subscribe to the channel over there and hit the bell notification. We've got new content every single day on this channel about growing a property portfolio, knowing what's going on in the market, when's the right time to buy, and much more. And also, while you're here, smash the like button or tickle the like button. Do something to the like button over there. That really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate every one of you that does that. So, what's going on with the data? I've got my notes here. So this is the fifth month that we've had of growth, according to Halifax. Now, remember, this isn't the whole market. This is just the Halifax data and their customer, their products. And what you'll see in a second, I'll talk about the average house price. Their average house price data is different to nationwide and different to the government data as well. So this is just the type of property that they deal with. And they might have some sub-brands that deal with multi-million-pound houses, or maybe they just focus all on the lower end. It's hard to know exactly how that data comes out, but this is their data. This excludes cash purchases as well. So this won't include that data. That will come from the land registry data, which we'll share with you as and when that stuff comes out. So this is the February data. And they're saying in February, we had a 0.4% up, which is pretty good. And the cash value on average per house is £1,091, which is decent. That's what we want, is some slow, steady growth. Or really, what a lot of people want is affordability to improve. So we kind of just want these small little incremental increases. We don't want a big drop. We don't want a big rise. We don't want any of this stuff. Really, like a flatter market just gets everyone the opportunity to catch their breath. And what will probably happen, not immediately after, but a few months, a year or so after interest rates start to drop, the market will go on a tear again, I'm sure. So they're saying that the average house price in the UK from their data, this is a bit higher than nationwide, which I think is around 270, is £291,699. And so that has gone up. Now, what's interesting is Halifax are saying for their data, they've got an annual increase in house prices right now. And so that isn't what we've had for a little while. And this is because that 2022 data, it isn't long ago that was in our annual house price data. And so October, November, December, last year, that would have been rolled into that, and that's finally dropped off in January. And so the annual 12-month period, we are looking at the moment at 1.7% up, which isn't bad, right? It's not like a tearaway market, but what it is going to indicate as well is, look, every single month that we get relatively flat, 0.4%, I would argue is a relatively flat month. It means that we're a little bit further away from a crash, right? And so that's good that we see that. I don't want to see a crash because I don't want to see lots of people go into negative equity. I think the market can stabilise better with people getting pay rises, mortgage rates coming down. And if you have a flat market, then with pay rises and stuff like that, affordability significantly improves for people over time. So we're just a little bit behind the peak again. So we are £1,800 off a peak market. Oh, so not far at all. Look, we've had house prices increasing £1,000 this month. Could be just 1% up. Pretty much 1% up will get us back to the peak that we had. And the peak we had was in June of 22. So that's interesting, and we'll keep an eye on that. Will we hit a peak in this calendar year? I don't know. I think it could be likely. It doesn't mean house prices won't drop by the end of the year, but it's very, very close. Now, they've also got some localized data here, which is interesting to see. I don't know why, but they don't have all areas. So if you're thinking, why isn't he sharing all areas? There's nothing that I've just left out on purpose. They just didn't share this data. But they're saying the Northwest is doing really well, and that's probably the best in the UK at the moment. 4.4% up on an annual basis at the moment. So Northwest is doing well. And I see that. Like I'm involved in a lot of property investing groups and stuff like that. There's a lot of money going into places like Liverpool and stuff like that. So that's interesting to see that. Northeast, on the other side, this is doing well as well. And so Northeast on an annual basis is 4.2%. That would cover my properties that I've got in Doncaster, which I think is a pretty strong area. But you've got to remember, this isn't just the whole of the Northeast. You've got to pick the right towns that have got things going on. So, for example, Doncaster, that town got turned into a city in the Queen's speech. Or basically just before she died, she turned Doncaster into a city. That meant more investment went into there, and house prices have gone up because of that. Wales is also doing very well as well. And so Wales is 4.1%, but Wales is a big place, and Wales can be quite volatile, so you need to look for the pockets that are doing well and do your research into that. So that's another area to consider. And London is starting to come back a bit now, because London was struggling, 1.5% up. So I guess that they haven't shown the other areas means that they're flat or close to a little bit of negative equity in some of those areas, like the Southeast. That's been pretty tough in the Southeast. I just had a property downvalued by about 50 grand the other day, which wasn't ideal, but it is what it is. We've actually brought that back up with a arguments with that, saying it's ridiculous, and they put the value back up by 25, but not the full 50 that we were looking for. So that is what it is in some markets. But look, the market is interesting. It still could go either way. It could be flat all year, it could go up, or it could go down. What do you think is happening? Where do you think this is going to end up? I like to listen, as I said, every time I do these bank updates, I like to listen to what they're saying, because they know what's happening in the next 6 months. And the reason for that is because maybe you buying a property right now, you've got a mortgage application in with them, so they know what the value is of that property. They know, is that likely to get approved? Is that likely to complete? They know all of this data, and so it's interesting to see where they feel things are going. And they feel it's fairly a busy start to the year. It's going to be unpredictable for the year, is the language that they're using, and so they want to see where things end up. So just before we go, we've got a flash sale at the moment on the Leasehold Accelerator. I'm going to link to that below. It's just £150 at the moment. That's the cheapest you'll ever see that. If you invested in that over the weekend, thank you for enrolling in that. We appreciate you. So I'm going to link that below. Go and check it out. See what it's all about. It's basically how you can secure properties for £1. And you can control those properties, add value to the property, make money from the rent, and then eventually buy that property at a discounted price. So I'm going to link that below. It's a very good strategy, especially in this kind of market. So do go and check that out. Do check out all the other content on my channel, including this video right here.